My family forgot my birthday 3 times because of my sick sister. But when I told them I felt invisible, they called me selfish. So I cut them out and built my own family that actually celebrates me. I'm 20 years old, work part-time at an electronics store while finishing college, and honestly, I need to get this off my chest because I've spent my entire life feeling like a ghost in my own family. I know how that sounds, like dramatic and exaggerated, but the truth is my parents literally forgot my birthday 3 times. And when I say literally, I'm not using the word to exaggerate. I mean, they actually, completely, forgot that I was born on that day. And before you think I'm some spoiled kid complaining about not getting enough presents, let me tell you the whole story because it's way more complicated than that. I guess I should start at the beginning. I mean, when I was little. My sister Olivia is 1 year younger than me, and since she was born, she's basically had chronic health problems and a physical disability. I'm not going to get into all the medical details because frankly, I don't even fully understand them myself, but the important thing is, she always needed a lot of attention and care. And look, I get it, you know? I'm not saying my parents are monsters for taking care of my sick sister. Not at all. The problem is that at some point, I stopped existing for them. It's not that they hated me or anything. It's worse than that, like they just didn't see me. It was like I was a piece of furniture in the house, something that's there but doesn't need attention because it works on its own. When I was really little, like 5 or 6 years old, I still remember things were more or less normal. Well, normal, in quotes, because Olivia already had her problems and there were lots of doctor visits and all that, but my parents still remembered I existed. My mom would take me to the park sometimes. My dad would play with me on weekends when he wasn't working or dealing with something with my sister. But as I got older, I kind of disappeared more and more. It's weird because you'd think the older you get, the more independent you are, and that's fine. But when you're a kid, you still need your parents to see you. You know what I mean? And they just didn't. The first birthday they forgot was when I was like 8 years old. Or maybe 9. I don't remember exactly. What I do remember perfectly is that day, Olivia had tickets to a concert for some kid's artist she loved, and my parents took her. I stayed with a neighbor. They literally left all day, the whole damn day of my birthday. And when they got home at night, my mom gave me a $5 gift card to some store and told me, "Happy birthday, honey. So sorry about today." And that was it. That was all. There wasn't even cake that day. They bought it like 2 days later at the supermarket, one of those cheap ones that come in plastic containers, and we sang happy birthday quickly before my dad had to take Olivia to another medical appointment. I thought it had been a coincidence, you know? Like a bad year where things didn't work out but next year would be better. But no, the next year was worse. My 10th birthday they completely forgot. Not even a $5 gift card. The whole day went by and nobody said anything. I was sitting at the breakfast table waiting for someone to say something, anything, but my mom was just stressed because Olivia hadn't slept well and my dad was making calls about some new treatment or whatever. I went to school feeling like shit, honestly, and when I came back I thought maybe they were going to surprise me, but no, nothing. A whole week went by before my mom realized, and when she did, she started crying and hugged me and apologized like 1,000 times. But you know what? That almost made it worse because it meant she had realized and still didn't do anything real to make up for it. They bought me that cheap cake again, and that was it. Back to normal life. By the time I turned 12, I wasn't even surprised anymore. That day, Olivia had an important appointment with a new specialist, like 2 hours away, so my parents left early with her. My dad left me $20 on the kitchen table with a note that said, "Happy birthday, champ. Sorry for not being here. Order some food." He didn't even sign the note. And the saddest part is I was already resigned. Like, okay, at least they technically remembered, at least there's $20 and not 5. I ordered pizza, ate it alone watching TV, and went to sleep. That was my 12th birthday. What people don't understand is, it wasn't just birthdays, you know? That was like the most obvious symbol of the problem, but it was everything. My parents didn't go to my soccer games. Never. Well, lying. They went to 1 in 3 years, and they had to leave halfway through because Olivia got sick. They never asked me how school was going. When I got good grades, they'd say, "Oh, that's nice, honey," and keep doing what they were doing. When I got the best grade in my class in math in 8th grade, I was super excited. I came home with the test, wanting to show them, and my mom barely looked at it because she was on the phone with the insurance company fighting about some medication for Olivia or whatever. There was this one time, I think I was like 14, when I saved money for months to buy myself a gaming console. I bought it with my own money, from mowing neighbors' lawns and that kind of stuff. It was mine, completely mine, and I loved it. Olivia one day had one of her tantrums, because on top of everything else, she could be pretty manipulative when she wanted to be, and she grabbed my console and threw it against the wall. Destroyed it completely. I was devastated, like in shock, and when I told my parents I expected them to at least scold her or something, but you know what they told me? That Olivia was going through a difficult time, that it wasn't her fault, that she couldn't control her emotions because of her condition. And I just stood there thinking, what about my emotions? What about my stuff? But I didn't say anything because I already knew it wouldn't do any good. The only person who really made me feel seen was my grandma. She lived like 20 minutes from our house and I'd go there whenever I could. My grandma was amazing. She always had time for me, always asked me how I was really doing, not just an automatic "how are you?" She'd make my favorite food, buy me little gifts for no reason, and most importantly, she made me feel special, like I mattered, you know? My grandpa was great too, quieter but super wise. We had a tradition of building model trains together in his basement. Those hours with my grandparents were basically the only thing keeping me sane in those years. When I turned 16 or 17, I don't remember exactly, I suggested to my parents that maybe we could go to family therapy. I'd been seeing a therapist on my own because my school counselor noticed I was kind of depressed, and my therapist thought family therapy would be a good idea. Surprisingly, my parents said yes. I think they felt guilty. I don't know. The first sessions were weird. The therapist was an older guy, like 50 years old, with a beard and glasses, and he had that super calm voice that therapists use. He asked my parents questions about the family dynamic, and they basically admitted that yes, Olivia required a lot of attention and sometimes they neglected my needs. For a while, like 2 or 3 months, things got a little better. My parents made a conscious effort to spend time with me. We established a family board game night once a week. My dad started asking me more often about school. My mom tried to cook my favorite meals sometimes. It wasn't perfect by a long shot, but it was something. I started to have a little bit of hope that things could change, that maybe finally my family could function in a more balanced way. But then Olivia started getting jealous. Yes, you read that right, jealous. Because now there were activities that didn't revolve completely around her, and she didn't like that at all. She started complaining that mom and dad were neglecting her, that they weren't paying attention to her anymore, that everything was about me now. Which was completely ridiculous because she was still getting like 90% of the attention, but for her that wasn't enough. She wanted 100%. She'd always had it and didn't know how to function any other way. The therapy sessions started revolving around Olivia's feelings. The therapist tried to keep the focus balanced, but my parents kept getting more and more worried about how she felt. Olivia literally said in one session that my parents favored me, which was so absurd, I almost laughed in her face. Me, the one who'd had 3 forgotten birthdays, the one who basically raised himself, the one who never got attention, was the favorite. But my parents took it seriously. They started canceling our game nights because Olivia was tired or wasn't feeling well. My dad stopped asking me about school again. Everything went back to how it was before. Or maybe worse. Because now I knew exactly what it felt like to have a little bit of my parents' attention and then lose it again. It was during that period when my grandma got sick. Cancer, advanced, basically out of nowhere. Everything happened super fast, like in a matter of months. She went from being fine to being in the hospital to passing away. I was like 17 when it happened, and honestly, it was the worst thing that had happened to me in my life up to that point. My grandma was my person, the only one who really understood me and made me feel valuable, and suddenly she was gone. My grandpa was devastated, obviously. He and my grandma had been together since they were like 20 years old. After she died, he kind of shut down. He became quieter, more distant, stopped doing the things he liked like our trains. A year after my grandma died, my grandpa decided to move to a nursing home in another city, like 3 hours from where we lived. He said he had friends there, and the place was nice, but I think he really just wanted to get away from all the memories. I don't blame him at all, but it hurt anyway. Now I'd lost the only two people in my family who made me feel seen and loved. I'd visit my grandpa when I could, like once a month, but it wasn't the same. He was there physically, but kind of absent mentally, if that makes sense. Back to family therapy. There was one session, I think when I was 18, that was particularly intense. The therapist asked me to share how I really felt. No filters. And I let it all out. I told my parents that I felt invisible, that I'd spent my whole life feeling like a stranger in my own home, that the forgotten birthdays were just the tip of the iceberg of years and years of emotional neglect. I told them I understood that Olivia needed more physical care, but that didn't mean I didn't need love and attention too. That it wasn't my fault. I was born healthy and I shouldn't be punished for it. My parents got super defensive. My mom started crying and saying they'd done the best they could, that I didn't understand how hard it was to have a child with special needs, that it was unfair that I was attacking them. My dad said I was selfish, that I didn't appreciate everything they'd sacrificed to keep the family afloat, that I should be more understanding with Olivia. And then Olivia, because of course she had to put in her 2 cents, said I'd always been jealous of her, that I'd always wanted to be the center of attention, that I was a terrible brother. I sat there listening to all this, and it was like an epiphany, you know? I realized that no matter what I said, no matter how much it hurt me, they were never going to change. They were never going to see things from my perspective. To them, I was the problem for daring to have emotional needs. After that session, I basically gave up. I kept going to family therapy for a couple more sessions because my parents insisted, but emotionally I've already checked out. I started planning my exit. I focused on school, worked more hours, saved every penny I could. My parents suggested switching therapists, said this one clearly wasn't working, but I said no. I told them I didn't want to go to family therapy anymore, that I didn't see the point. They got mad but eventually let it go. I think deep down they were relieved not to have to keep going and confronting uncomfortable things. When I turned 19, I moved out. I got a partial scholarship to a university in another city, like 4 hours away, and I left. It was liberating and terrifying at the same time. On one hand, I was finally out of that house where I felt invisible. On the other hand, I was completely alone. Well, not completely. I had some friends from school who'd also moved to study, but you know what I mean. I decided to go low contact with my family. I didn't block them or anything dramatic like that, but I stopped initiating conversations, stopped visiting them, on holidays, responded to their messages after days. They didn't seem to notice much or care too much either. My first birthday after moving out, number 19, was exactly what I expected. Nobody called, nobody texted, nothing. The whole day went by and my phone didn't ring once from my family. I checked like 10 times, thinking maybe there was some problem with my phone or the messages weren't getting through, but no. They'd just forgotten again. Or maybe it wasn't even that they forgot. Maybe they just didn't care. I cried that night. I'm not going to lie. I cried like I hadn't cried in years, like those ugly cries where you can't breathe right. But after that, I don't know, it was kind of cathartic in a way. It was confirmation that I'd made the right decision to distance myself. For my 20th birthday, this year, I decided to do something different. I threw a party with my friends from here, from college and work. It wasn't anything fancy, just pizza, cheap beer, and video, games. But it was great. My friends made me feel special, bought me silly little gifts. We sang happy birthday at the top of our lungs. And the best part of it all is, I was genuinely happy. I wasn't waiting for my phone to ring. I wasn't thinking about my family. Well, that's a lie. I did think about them, but not in a sad way. Like, I called my mom the next day. I don't know why. I guess some part of me still had hope that maybe they'd remembered even if it was a day late. I asked her, "Hey, did you know what day yesterday was?" And she was quiet for a moment and then said, "Oh God, your birthday. I'm so sorry, honey. We were very busy with Olivia, She had a crisis, and I just said, "It's okay, Mom. Talk to you later," and hung up. It wasn't with anger this time. It was more like resignation and acceptance. Acceptance that this is what it is, that my biological family isn't going to change, that they're not going to give me what I need. And that's okay. Honestly, because I realized something important at that birthday party. I was surrounded by people who chose me and who I chose, people who care about me, who celebrate my achievements, who are there when things get tough. My roommate made me a cake from scratch. My best friend bought me that video game I'd been wanting for months. Another friend made me a playlist with songs he knows I like. That's family too, you know? Maybe it's not the family you were born with, but it's the family you build. Now I'm in my second year of college, working part-time, still going to individual therapy, and honestly, I'm okay. Not perfect. Because obviously I still carry all this with me and I'll probably be processing it for years. But okay. I talk to my parents maybe once every 2 months. Superficial conversations about how's the weather and how's school. I don't talk to Olivia at all. I visit my grandpa at the nursing home when I can, though he's increasingly lost in his memories. But I have my life here. I have my friends. I have my goals and plans for the future. I've been dating a girl for a few months, and things are going well. And the best part is when I told her about my family, she didn't make me feel like I was being dramatic or exaggerating. She just said, "That's horrible, I'm so sorry," and hugged me. That's what I needed, you know? Validation that my feelings are valid, that I'm not the bad guy in the story for distancing myself. Sometimes I wonder how things would have been if Olivia hadn't been born with her health problems, or if I'd been an only child, or if my parents had been better at handling the situation. But those questions don't lead anywhere productive. They just make you feel bad. The reality is, this is the life I have. This is my story. And the only option is to move forward and build something better for myself. I don't know if I'll ever have a real relationship with my parents or with Olivia. Honestly, right now, I'm not very interested in trying. Maybe in the future, who knows? But for now, I'm focused on healing and surrounding myself with people who value me. Next year, I turn 21, and I'm already planning the party. It's going to be epic. My friends and I are going to rent a cabin for the weekend. We're going to have a bonfire. We'll probably drink too much and we'll tell stupid stories until 3 in the morning. And I'm not going to be waiting for my phone to ring. I'm not going to be sad or resentful. I'm going to be exactly where I want to be, with the people who chose to celebrate me, and that, at the end of the day, is what really matters.